Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Cheyenne Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheyenne Malone. You are watching another edition of The Small Business Show. According to clearlypayment.com, the U.S. payment processing market annual value was over $2 trillion in 2023. That's a whole lot of money, right? Joining us today to talk more about this and the importance of merchant services for businesses is Jarrod Randolph. He's the founder and CEO of BoxFi Payment Processing Solutions, and Jarrod has been featured in Forbes, Authority Magazine, and so much more. We got the right guy on today. Welcome, Jarrod.
Pleasure.
Talk to me about, the importance and significance for businesses to have merchant services and solid ones.
First and foremost, small businesses have a massive impact on the U.S. economy, which is about 44% of the economic impact in total. And they employ nearly half of the employed people in the U.S. So small businesses are incredibly important, and the survival of small businesses are incredibly important. And believe it or not, payment processing is part of that equation because it has such a huge impact on the bottom line of these businesses. So let's take a typical small business. Their profit margin is anywhere on average from 7 to 10%. And again, that's average. Some are lower, some are much higher. And their major expenses being employment, being supplies, and materials, being insurance, marketing. They really have a huge hit on the businesses. So they have to find creative ways in today's market that they can save money. Payment processing happens to be one of them if you're enrolled in the right program with the right service provider where you can reduce or eliminate credit card fees, which could boost your profits anywhere from 10 to 15% on average.
And so what do you suggest to help that?
So first and foremost, you have to look at your business model. You have to understand who your customers are. So BoxFi is really a small business financial ecosystem. And we're here to help small businesses build financial certainty because so many small businesses fail because of financial uncertainty, but also sometimes they just miss the mark. There's no market for the product or the service that they're selling. It's one of the second biggest reasons that small businesses in the US fail. So what they should be looking at is what are the line items that I currently have on a monthly basis that I could potentially reduce, or what are some creative ways that I can add value, which will help me grow my business and grow my profit margin. Payment processing, there's a great program called dual pricing. Dual pricing is federally regulated under Dodd-Frank, and it allows the small business owners to offset credit card fees to the customers legally. It's very different than surcharging. It's like when you go to the gas pump. It's cheaper if you pay with cash. It's more expensive if you pay with credit card because you're covering that as the consumer, you're covering that credit card fee. Small businesses can also offer this as well. And this is growing in popularity. It's actually been around for the last 12 years, but it's actually growing in popularity post-COVID as businesses are working diligently to recoup from the strain of the 3 years that we went through with COVID.
And are there, specific problems that small businesses face with the traditional merchant services? And I'm assuming you're going to say yes, right? Can you list those out for us and maybe some ways to get around that?
So let me paint you a picture.
Okay.
And the reason I'm actually in this business is quite unique. I had a business that failed, and Jarrod Randolph was the master of the universe. He could do whatever he wanted to do. But a decade ago, I went into a business that I didn't know much about, even though I acquired the business. And the revenue was great in the 7 figures. I had 6 employees that were working for me. And I thought I could go in and apply my experience in my other business into this particular business. But I realized I was missing a ton of resources and I was dealing with far more financial constraints than I actually realized. And I didn't know ways to cut cost and save money. So ultimately, I ended up having to fold that business. I had to let go of 6 people, which really hurt my ego. And I went into a dark hole for a week. But when I came out, like Winston Churchill says, if you're going through hell, keep going. When I came out of it, I said, all right, how could I have fixed this problem? And one of the ways that I could have fixed the problem was understanding what I could have done as a business owner with my finances. So instead of doing a merchant service loan or a merchant account loan, I could have done a small business loan. Instead of focusing on my own credit to get credit for the business, I could have set up and gotten business credit, and it wouldn't impact my personal credit. And I could have leaned into that and the revenue that we had coming in to get even bigger credit lines, which I never knew about at the time. And then from the payment processing side, I was paying about 3.25% for my payment processing because we were an online business. That was over $100,000 a year I was paying in payment processing.
Wow.
Even though we had a really nice margin, my margin was getting wiped out because I had to pay for staff. I had to pay for my location. I had to pay for the services and supplies and for the marketing, and I was ending up with basically at zero. So if I had that extra $100,000, I could have hired the 2 employees that I needed to hire from the product development standpoint, and from the marketing standpoint, I needed 2 full-time employees to grow the business, push it to the next level, and actually come out in the positive. But I didn't know that at the time. Now I know it, and it's one of the reasons why BoxFi is here as for small businesses as a financial ecosystem to help them grow.
You know, it's not easy, right? You hear all the great stories of people, I wrote an idea down on a napkin and I started a business and it was successful and we're making 7 figures. But you're right, there's so many even basic things that people overlook, and they can really boost their financial gain if they were to pay a little bit more attention. So obviously that's where you guys come in. Talk to me about merchant service providers. What are, in your opinion, the most important features businesses would look for in a merchant service provider?
There are some in terms of ease of getting payment processing services set up, some options out there, and they're really tech-driven options. The challenge as your business starts to grow is those tech-driven options aren't focused on the customer service. And what small businesses really need is to be able to pick up the phone and talk to a human being. If I can't talk to a human being, I get really frustrated. I've changed banks 3 times to be able to, over the last 10 years, to find a bank that I could work with where I had a contact person who could deal with an issue so I wasn't dialing and getting a call center. The same thing should be is you should know who your payment processor is and your account manager is by name, because if you can't accept payment, you're not in business.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have someone who can provide a high level of customer service, and then you need to be able to negotiate with your payment processor. Listen, we all have fees. We all have a margin. I make a margin. You, Mr. or Mrs. Small business owner, make a margin too. But you can actually negotiate those credit card fees based on what the interchange levels are and get into a program that best suits your business and best suits your customers. The problem with a lot of processors out there is they're one size fits all. So what you need to do is find someone who you can have a conversation with, and when something hits the fan, you're able to deal with an actual human being. But also going into the process, understand what your real options are to have as much cost savings on your payment processing, even if it's 0.5% or completely eliminating that 3% that you're paying. There are options out there for you as a small business owner.
Makes sense. What advice do you have for small business owners when it comes to merchant services? You obviously named a few there. Anything else?
I would make sure that whatever they're using, they don't get pushed into a product that doesn't make sense for them. So a lot of merchant service companies provide merchant cash advances. They're not necessarily a negative thing, but if you're a cash constrained business, and the way merchant cash advances are set up is they will give you the cash advance based on your potential sales or your purchase orders. But when the money comes in, they withdraw it directly from your account. And they're also doing that until they get paid back. And it's much more accelerated than if you were to say, all right, I'm cash constrained. I need cash flow. How are ways that I could go out and get a small business loan? And some people say, well, I don't have the credit for a small business loan. Well, you need to look at your options to be able to correct your credit and then create business credit, because they're out there. There's incredible resources that we're able to offer. So it might take you 6 months, but that 6 months of making sure that your credit is in line, setting up your business credit could be the game changer to make sure your business lives for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So understanding all your financial resources when working with a payment processor, absolutely key.
Makes sense. Oh, this has been great. I feel like you've given us a lot of great tips. Anything else? Anything that we left out? Any final thoughts from you, Jarrod?
I would just say, as a business owner, have the right mindset when you meet those financial challenges, or you're losing sleep, or you're living with that financial uncertainty. Do your research. Look for the resources that can help you take your business to the next level. If not, just get your business on an even keel so you can get up every day and enjoy what you do. Small business owners do what they do, like what I do, because I really love it. Helping small business owners is very important to me. And I'll leave you with a story of what really changed the way that I look at the business. About 3 years ago, because I've been in the business for quite some time, about 3 years ago, I had one of my merchants call me from Texas. She was in San Antonio, a dentist. And she was like in tears. And I was like, "What's wrong?" She goes, "I just want to thank you." And I said, "Okay, is everything all right?" She's like, "Yeah, you paid for, because of the savings that I had in credit cards, my son's college tuition this year."
Oh,
And that to
wow.
me was like, "Oh, wait, I'm it's more than merchant services. I'm actually having an impact in helping people in their business, but then in their personal lives." And that to me is where I found the affinity and love. And I figured out ways to help my business grow. And all small business owners should be looking at their business in that way.
I mean, if that's not inspirational, I don't know what is. Jarrod Randolph, thanks so much, founder and CEO of BoxFi. I appreciate your time and your expertise.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for watching the Small Business Show exclusively right here on ASBN.com, and now streaming on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Cheyenne Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.